Hey there, and welcome to another episode of Picture This. My name is Matt, and with
And
me,
I am Dan.
hey Dan, how are you?
Doing great, Matt. How are you?
Doing all right. Today's a very special episode because as you're watching this, or as we're releasing this, it is July 21st, and that is a special date because it is the day that the late Robin Williams was born. So to honor and celebrate his birthday, we're here to just talk a little bit about Robin. We're also going to be doing a top 10 countdown of our favorite performances of his. And it's going to be one singular countdown that Dan, I, and Kayla have all come together collaboratively, and easy for me to say, right? And created one list because I thought we thought it would be too long for the three of us to each name 10 movies, and it's impossible to do just a top five with Robin. So we're going to talk a little bit about Robin. We're going to name our top 10 lists that we came up together. And then at the end, we got a special in memoriam tribute video that we're going to put up on the screen to end the show out. Um, so, Dan, I don't know if you want to start or what's your earliest memory of Robin Williams?
I mean, honestly, probably before I even knew who he was, Aladdin is probably going to be like one of the first things that kicked it off for me, the voice of the genie. Movie wise, I know that I was a big fan of Flubber
Yeah.
growing up. That was a big one for me. But I mean, he was so prevalent when I was younger. He was just kind of everywhere. And it's just one of those things where he almost felt like family because he was always around, even though he wasn't really. It's almost like a distant uncle, was kind of how it felt like. And I know that's probably weird to say, but
It's really
um,
not. Like I'm tearing up. I don't know if you can tell. I'm tearing up just listening to you talk about it. Like he impacted lives, especially children of the 90s. He impacted us. I mean, he was the family member that we never met. Like, and I'm just talking about you and me. I'm talking about everyone. He was everyone's family member that they never got to meet. But I didn't mean to cut you off. Sorry.
no, you didn't cut me off. I know a lot of people are probably looking at this, probably feeling the same way. It's tragic what happened with him. And I don't know if there's a way that we could potentially put out there like also a number to the hotline while we're on here. But if you are depressed or if you
Yeah.
have any thoughts of self-harm or anything like that, please, talk to somebody, let a friend, family member call the hotline, like talk to somebody. It's a shame that we lost a bright light. He was bright for everybody else, and if only we could have shown a little bit of that light back to him, maybe he'd still be here with us today. But we're here today to celebrate his body of work and also his life and his birthday. This will be releasing on his birthday, so really exciting. I'm glad we get to talk about it. And yeah, I'll kick it back over to you.
Thank you. Yeah. Can you believe next year, 2024 is going to be 10 years since he's been gone, I believe, if I'm doing my math right. So maybe we'll do another video then to honor, well, 10-year anniversary. Um, but yeah, like you said, I mean, I'm not going to go too much more because you kind of hit the nail on the head there with everything. You know, growing up in the 90s, you know Robin Williams. You just do, whether it's Aladdin, whether it's Flubber, whether it's Mrs. Doubtfire, whether it's Jack, whether it's Bicentennial Man, whether all these movies that were like kind of family oriented or even just full on kid movies that he was in, and then of course as we grew up, I don't know about everyone, but I know myself and I'm sure you and others, started exploring his other body of work that stuff he did in the 80s and then even the newer stuff that he was doing in the 2000s, some drama stuff, some dramatic performances, some all that stuff, and we'll get to a lot of it here on this list. So I'm not going to kill any more time. We're going to jump right in. We had a top 10 list that, like I said at the beginning, myself, Dan, and Kayla all came together and put this list together. We do have three honorable mentions, one from each of us, simply because it was just impossible to only come with 10. I remember how I said it was impossible to do five. Well, it was still impossible to do 10. So here's three honorable mentions that didn't make the list, but could have, should have. The list just need to be a little longer. So I'll do mine and then I'll kick it off to Dan if you want to cover yours and Kayla's.
Okay.
Um, just real quick, 1 hour photo for me stands out because it is a entirely different Robin Williams performance. He's creepy. He is played as an older gentleman that's stalking a family. He becomes obsessed with his family. It's a totally entirely different type of role for him, and it's like a thriller, dramatic thriller type of movie. And if you haven't seen it, I encourage you to check it out.
And with Kayla's honorable mention, it was Robots. Now he played the voice of the main character there in Robots, I believe. I've never personally seen the movie, so if you want to elaborate on what happened in that, have you seen it?
I actually have not either.
But definitely, you know, Robin Williams was definitely a fan or a proponent of supporting children. A lot of what
Yes.
he did, a lot of his body of work was in support of children to bring smiles to those who might need one. And it sounds like it was another one that he was doing that.
So
My first
robots, I don't mean to cut you off. I'm so sorry,
good.
but just to give robots its credit, in a robot world, a young idealistic inventor travels to the big city to join his inspirations company, only to find himself opposing its sinister new management. And it stars Ewan McGregor, Halle Berry, Mel Brooks, and Robin Williams plays the role of Fender. So that's robots.
Okay. And then also my honorable mention
Yes.
would be Jack. We're talking about a little boy who ends up having a disorder that ages him physically, while inside he's still a child. And I don't think they could have picked a better actor to embody that than Robin Williams, honestly, for this movie. I know we start off and we see him like playing around in the room, he's with his mom, but he's like in the body of a full grown man,
Right.
and this does point to an actual disorder. Um, though maybe not to how it was put to the screen. And then we get to see him kind of live his life, grow up, fall in love, and eventually towards the end of the movie, he graduates. And by the time he graduates, he's physically an older man. And it just impacted me. I think the movie was beautifully done. I think that he was a fantastic actor, and the rest of these that we have on the list, I think honestly just keep getting better and better. So yeah, kick it back over to you for number 10.
Jack is great. It's one of my favorites. Number 10, Hook. The grown up story, or the story of what if Peter Pan, the boy who never grows up, grew up and forgot that he was Peter Pan. Steven Spielberg directs, Dustin Hoffman brilliantly plays Captain Hook, and it tells the story of Hook kidnapping Peter's children and Peter Banning having to make his way to Neverland with the help of Tinkerbell, played by Julia Roberts, uh, and having to remember who he is. And it's just a magical, fun movie. I know critics and fans online are iffy on it. But for me, it's one I grew up with. And, to me, Peter Pan in my head is Robin Williams.
It's funny because we're getting into that, and just the theme that's going to be in a lot of these movies definitely stands out. So just amazing. So with number 9 brings us to one I just talked about a little bit ago, Flubber. We have the scientist who is puts everything together. He's an inventor. He's got all these gadgets and doodads, things that range from helping him make breakfast in the morning, helping him wake up. He's got a personal robot that he relies on as his personal assistant. And then he ends up creating something more or less by accident, a sentient piece of plastic or rubber what we end up calling Flubber, a little green guy that ends up capturing a lot of folks' imagination. Ultimately, it helps him play basketball and a team play basketball. There's a lot of stuff going on here, but ultimately, it kind of symbolizes how his life wasn't necessarily put together. He struggles in romance. His inventions and the way he lives his life don't necessarily line up with what his romantic interests are. He ends up missing his own wedding in the beginning, but ultimately he finds his way back with the help of, eventually, of Flubber and an old friend, with one of his robot assistants. So beautiful movie. Really captures a lot of the imagination, something that I don't really think we've seen anything quite like it before or after. So, but definitely deserves a spot on this list. And kicking back to you from number 8.
Number 8, we've got What Dreams May Come. Robin plays a man who dies in a car accident. Um, well, sort of. He's not in the car when he dies, but and he goes to heaven. And we got Cuba Gooding Jr. there, and it's pretty. And his wife's a painter, so he's like in his wife's paintings. And then he discovers that his wife has died via suicide. And when he realizes that she's not in heaven with him because she's killed herself, he embarks on this journey through literal hell to find her. At its core, it's a love story. We covered this video a while back in our archives, so you can find it there. We go much more in depth, but I think we all three kind of agreed that, you know, no one knows what heaven is or what it looks like, but that we would want this to kind of be heaven, like each person's own individual thing. And in this movie, heaven was portrayed as his favorite thing, his wife's paintings, and it's just a very beautiful, touching film.
And then number 7, we have Bicentennial Man, who, starting off, we have an inventor. I believe it was played by Sam Neill,
It
correct?
was your boy.
Yeah, my favorite actor of all time. So anyways, the inventor ends up creating this robot man, and instead of being like a robot or AI that we are familiar with today, he starts to develop feelings, emotions, and acts more human-like. He's introduced to the scientist's daughter. He begins to have feelings for her, more than just, I think, familial at times. We end up starting to get romantic feelings, and we see his journey through life through an extended period, specifically 200 years, over the course of a bicentennial. And as this story progresses, we follow him as he becomes more and more human, not only on the inside, but also on the outside, aesthetically, to a point where biologically they make him almost human-like, to where he begins to fade and age. His system starts to corrode, kind of like what would happen to us naturally in aging. And at the end of his life, he spends it out with, it's her daughter, correct? Is who he's with in the end, or is it
Yeah,
her?
yeah, I think it's her daughter,
Yep.
if I remember correctly. It's been a while.
So with that, it's another story about, to me, how love transcends the bounds of really anything scientific. And even though in that particular case it was something mechanical, that he was able to be something physical, metaphysical. And an amazing story. It's a very long watch, so buckle up if you haven't seen that and you want to sit down, but truly worth it through the end.
Yeah. I remember watching that as a kid and I didn't enjoy it. And then I went back a few years ago and rewatched it and I was like, wow, this movie is great. Like I couldn't believe that I had kind of, I mean, I was a younger kid. It's a long movie. It's kind of a drama. Of course, it wouldn't be something that appealed to me. But, as an adult, it's a fantastic movie. Um, so that brings us to number 6, right?
Yes, sir.
Number 6, we got Patch Adams based on the true story. We got Hunter Adams, who went by Patch. He wanted to be a medical doctor because he enjoyed helping people. And, the medical and scientific community didn't like that, didn't like his methods of healing sick people. Uh, but the nurses and the doctors and all the people actually in the hospital enjoyed what he did. And, the movie is kind of his journey trying to become a medical doctor. Um, and it's got a great cast. You got Robin, of course. You've got Monica Potter, Philip Seymour Hoffman. Um, it's just one of those. You know, it's been a while since I've seen it, but it's one of those that it's really good. It's heartwarming. It's touching. It's got a little bit of suspense. It's got a little bit of a twist you don't see coming. It's got kind of got it all. And again, it's the true story of Hunter Adams. So another good one. Well, they're all good, but another good one.
So coming in at number five, the middle point on this list, one that's still having a cultural impact and significance to this day, though arguably they all do. With this one, we're talking about Jumanji, which features the board game. We have our main character who ends up as a child getting sucked into a game that takes him through the jungle, gets him hunted, puts him in danger with wild animals, and then this game is played much, much later, decades, to the point where he's returned to the real world. And but with him also comes all the dangers that he faced while being stuck in the game. And we see this play through with a couple younger or kids that had brought the game out and ended up awakening Jumanji, um, and he fights his way to stay alive. They all are, but also to return to the world from whence he came. And with this movie, again, I think it was really well done. This is one of those that if you haven't seen Jumanji, like what are you doing with your life? Because I mean, it was such a big impact. Like again, as a child, because this movie was one of the go-tos, especially out of his catalog. So, and then again, we have the new movies that are from this. And to take a sidestep, I think they've done an excellent job playing off the original. But maybe we'll talk about that at a later time when we're not celebrating Robin Williams. But still making movies based on that today. So kicking you off to number four, Mr. Matt.
We're more than halfway done. Number four is a movie that is very near and dear to my heart. It is I think is my personal favorite of all of his movies. And I've seen, I'd say 95% of his filmography. Um, and that is Mrs. Doubtfire. Um, Robin and is a character who's married to Sally Field, and they go through this really bitter divorce, and there's a custody battle, and because he doesn't quite have his life together, it's another one of those characters where he's like a big kid, and he's trying to be a voiceover actor, and it's just he loses his job, and so he's just kind of bumming it, and so he then goes to court, and he loses custody of his kids, and his kids are his reason for breathing. There's a line at the end of the movie where he talks about that, and so he concocts this plan when he finds out that his ex-wife is looking for a housekeeper to watch the children, to clean the house. And he says, "Hey, I can do that." And he goes to her at first as himself and says, "Hey, why don't you let me do this?" And she completely shoots him down, which then leads him into what any sane, normal man would do: dress up like a 80-year-old woman, and a British woman at that, and become Mrs. Doubtfire, the nanny, the hip hop nanny who can, what is it, hip hop, bebop, and dance till you drop. um, this is such a funny, heartwarming, dramatic, tear jerking movie. It's got Robin, it's got Pierce Brosnan, Sally Field, like I mentioned, it's got Mara Wilson, Matthew Lawrence, a great cast of 90s actors. Um, and as a person whose parents really did divorce, This is one of my dad's all time favorite movies before he even was divorced. And then when my parents did divorce, this movie took on a whole new meaning for us, him and I, and in me in general. It's just there's the end scene, the ending scene. Robin comes to pick up his kids from Sally Field to take them for a day or whatever. It's not really specified. Take them to school, I think. And then the pre-recorded Mrs. Doubtfire's show, which if you haven't seen the movie, you're like, what is going on? Sorry, spoilers, but it's 1993. People, come on. Which is 30 years, right? 30-year anniversary, Mrs. Doubtfire. Happy
Yeah, coming up.
anniversary.
Happy
Um,
anniversary, man.
yeah. Uh, there's a pre-recorded episode of his Mrs. Doubtfire show on the TV that Sally Field tells him the kids watch every day. And in that episode, Mrs. Doubtfire is reading a letter from a child about her parents that are split up and about whether my mommy and daddy still love me and blah blah blah. And he gives this monologue that will just rip your heart out and stomp on it in a good way, in the best way. And that's how the movie ends. And I encourage you to YouTube it or go watch the movie because it's beautiful.
Dang, I want to get you in the heartstrings.
I know. That's the second time I've teared up during this video.
um, well, the next one on our list are number three. As we're getting toward the top, I think this one also stands out among them as probably one of the most remembered. We're talking about something that created an iconic line when you're talking about "Oh Captain, my Captain." Like if you hear that, the reason being is that this movie is really catapulted that, and that is the Dead Poet Society. And in Dead Poet Society, we're introduced to a teacher. And this is going to be kind of different because I think this one starts to hit probably a little closer for me about what Robin Williams meant to me. He's an English teacher in an all boys school. And basically, he's with them. It's almost like a coming of age where he's helping them, giving them advice, making them or trying to encourage them to follow their dreams. And I don't want to dig as deep as I probably should into this, but it's one of those things that I mean, really, Robin Williams is a person. Like even just by being an actor and being in these performances that he was in, that's what he was again for me. Like he was one person that kind of made you believe that anything was impossible, and really what was important was to carpe diem and seize the day. So just I don't know, man. Just kind of like the note, like for me, that hits is just seize the day, and I feel like in everything he did that. So, but I'm gonna kick you back
Absolutely.
over to number two, Mr. Matt.
Absolutely. Um, you ain't never had a friend like me. Truer, no truer words have possibly ever been spoken. Um, I mean, where do you start with Aladdin? Uh, an already hugely successful actor joins this Disney cartoon movie and somehow makes the movie this phenomenon and then becomes an even bigger actor than he already was. I mean, I think Aladdin is what put Robin on the map for our generation. And that's not to say that he wasn't, again, it wasn't already, he was already, Mork and Mindy and all these movies in the 80s, you know, but Aladdin comes along and just instills him as one of the greatest of all time. They've said that they have so much material that they could do a whole nother movie with Robin Williams' voice as the genie, but for legal reasons, that was something that he didn't want them to do. So that's never going to happen. So because he had so many outtakes and different takes on the lines and did so many different impressions that weren't into the movie. And, so this is a movie that really let him go wild and be free. There were a little bit of legal issues back and forth between him and Disney afterwards. And, they kind of butted heads a little bit, but they came back together in the later 90s. He did the direct to video third Aladdin movie. He missed number two, but he did come back for number three. Um, and Aladdin is just one of those things that it's a magical childhood film. If you don't know the story of Aladdin, I'm not going to tell you. But obviously, Robin plays the genie. He gives you three wishes. The big blue guy. He's lovable. And when he first passed, that image of Aladdin hugging the genie at the end of the movie, where Aladdin says, "I'm going to miss you, Genie," because he set Genie free and Genie got to go. He was no longer enslaved to whoever rubbed the lamp. He was free. And that image of Aladdin holding and hugging Genie, says, "I'll miss you," was the image that was all over social media when Robin Williams first passed away. Um, just a wonderful, wonderful movie. Dan, before I cry again, what is number one?
So number one, again, if you look at the catalog of movies, this one's got to be a giant. That is Good Will Hunting, and starring Matt Damon as a janitor who is working in MIT as a janitor. He is a genius. He's, somebody that he can just figure out any problem you put in front of him, whether it be mathematics or whatever you put in front of him. But he's got a lot of pent up anger, rage, resentment, that sort of thing. And we really don't have any kind of really snapshot into that until one day we have Robin Williams' character is professor there. He puts a mathematics problem on the board, right? And then he ends up leaving. Matt Damon sees this. He goes up and he solves it. It's one of those problems that apparently is super hard to solve or unsolvable. And Robin Williams, I believe, starts giving him more to go over after that. And he just nails it. And then as time goes on, um, really Robin Williams wants to support him, but more so as a like a psychological piece. Like he wants to have him get help, therapy to try to work through some of his angers. I believe the reason why he was a janitor to begin with was he had gotten arrested or gotten a fight. Um, is that correct?
Sounds
He's
right.
staring at me.
Sounds right.
But overall, um, it's another one of those things where it's just Robin Williams' character wanted the best for Matt Damon. He wanted to help him overcome his struggles, and over time they become friends. So it's again a number. It's a big one. It's a huge movie,
He won an
and
Oscar.
yeah.
He won his first and only Oscar for that, for best supporting actor. Um, and there's so many powerful scenes in that with Williams and Matt Damon, and there's the ending of the movie is great. The whole premise of the movie is that Will Hunting is the character's name, and he wants to he deserves to be bigger than the small little town that he's in doing the job that he's doing. And Ben Affleck, who's also in this movie, plays his best friend, tells him at one point, like, every day I come here to pick you up and knock on your door so we can ride to work together, and every day I hope that you don't answer the door because you're not here, because you're so much better than this town and this job and this life. And spoilers at the end, because of Robin Williams, because of all the things that happened to him in this movie, Matt Damon, uh, the movie ends with Ben Affleck knocking on the door and Matt Damon's gone. Uh, Great, fantastic, 5 star, 10 out of 10, chef's kiss, all that stuff. Film, Good Will Hunting.
So Matt, I don't know, man. He's been a mentor. He's been a friend. He's been a babysitter.
A
Uh,
father.
he's been everything to us, right? So,
Yeah.
I mean, we honor him. His birthday is on the 21st.
Yep.
Mr. Robin Williams, though you're not with us, happy birthday. And
Indeed.
thank you for, that we can't give you a gift. We thank you for the gifts that you left us. So,
He's one of only, and as you can tell, probably watching this, he's one of the only celebrities that I've ever cried when they died, and it still comes. It's coming right now. It still happens. Just talking about him, it hurts because it did. He had that much of an impact on society and the world, and I wish he knew how much the world loved him. With that, I'm gonna wrap this up because I'm bawling like a baby. Um, Stay tuned after this. Usually we sign off, love one another, all that stuff. That's great. We're still gonna do that, but stay tuned after that for a short little in memoriam video that we'll have here for Robin. So again, happy birthday, Robin. We love you. We miss you. And thank you. Thank you for the mark that you left in this world. Everybody have a great week. We'll catch you next time. Love one another.
thank you guys.
We got some news during the show that that Robin Williams has passed away.
It's not your fault. You'll never be regular. You're spectacular.
Why can't we treat death with a certain amount of humanity and dignity and decency and, God forbid, maybe even humor? Death is not the enemy, gentlemen.
Good morning, Vietnam!
Please, don't worry so much. Because in the end, none of us have very long on this earth. Life is fleeting. And if you're ever distressed, cast your eyes to the summer sky. When the stars are strung across the velvety night. And when a shooting star streaks through the blackness, turning night into day. Make a wish. And think of me. And make your life spectacular. Poetry, beauty, romance, love. These are what we stay alive for. What year is it?
Oh, Captain, my Captain. Gentlemen.
No matter what anybody tells you, words and ideas can change the world. Carpe diem. Seize the day. We all have a great need for acceptance. But you must trust that your beliefs are unique, your own, even though others may think them odd or unpopular, even though the herd may go, that's bad.